And just days after avoiding a government shutdown, 20 Republican senators are banding together to push for a long-term funding deal here. Senator Rick Scott is leading the charge to get the annual appropriations bill moving through the Senate. He and other Senate Republicans now vowing to delay any legislation not related to funding the government. That temporary agreement passed last weekend will only keep the government open until mid-November, November 17th. Despite the new countdown, Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has yet to bring any spending bill to the Senate floor. Joining us now is Bob Cusack, editor-in-chief over at The Hill. Bob, always good to see you. Okay, so Senator Scott and this cadre of 20 say if it's not the budget, we're not interested right now. What do we think? Is this a smart move?
Well, this is the core function of Congress, and Congress, of course, is kind of broken on both the House and Senate side. They haven't done their jobs. They haven't passed all of the appropriation bills. The House has passed a few. The Senate is actually more bipartisan in its bills, but they haven't brought it to the floor. Why? Because it takes a long time to actually clear a bill on the floor. It takes basically a week. So was I a little surprised that maybe Schumer didn't act on appropriations this week? Yeah, a little bit, because the House is obviously paralyzed.
And have we seen this kind of tactic before, where a senator and a group of them say, we're not focusing on anything else but this until you bring it to us for a vote? And has that been proven successful in the past?
It's a little unusual, but with all the focus on a government shutdown or potential government shutdown, and we're looking at another one around Thanksgiving, it's par for the course, because the focus now is on spending, is on cutting spending for Republicans, and for Democrats is keeping the government open.
And I know, along with Senator Scott, you have 19 Republican senators who have gotten behind his promise to hold off on any bills not directly related to this. But what are the odds, Bob? I was thinking about this earlier. What are the odds that any Democrats cross party lines and say, you know what, this is a good idea. We agree. We're going to join this pledge?
I don't see that, but watch the Democratic senators who are up for re-election in red states, and that would include Sherrod Brown, certainly John Tester from Montana, who has broken with leadership, and certainly I think will break with leadership more as he goes into his tough re-election. But I don't see many Democrats joining this effort. It does seem like a Republican initiative.
Yeah, and looking back to last weekend, obviously, former Speaker Kevin McCarthy took the brunt of the blame for the near miss over the weekend. Could that blame now shift onto Democrats if Schumer continues to drag his feet?
Well, yeah, as far as this game of power, it's all about leverage. So the party that has more leverage in the government shutdown, and the Senate actually and the White House had more leverage. Why? Because Kevin McCarthy was kind of on an island. He was fighting his own guys, and also the Senate and the White House. And even Senate Republicans are on the same page on Ukraine aid. But then McCarthy actually pulled a good maneuver, kept the government open, but his conference wasn't happy with him. And now, as you say, he's a former speaker.
Yeah. And looking, just last question for you, Bob, moving forward here, I know Republicans expressed frustrations just this week that Schumer decided not to bring a spending bill to the floor and instead let everybody leave for Columbus Day recess. What is it, 2 weeks? I mean, what's the point of that, eating into what's only a few weeks left before that November 17th deadline? I mean, why go home for a couple weeks when you have such a big vote that needs to come to the floor and be agreed upon?
Yeah, and that's why I thought maybe the Senate would try to move on appropriations, and if they were blocked, then they could blame Republicans. Because when you think back to the August recess, and both parties were not here in August, a lot of people say, why did they leave when we were basically headed for a government shutdown? And I think the chances now, especially with the speaker fight now, I think the chances of a government shutdown are very high. So when you go on recess, you're going to get criticized, whether that's the House or the Senate.
Yeah, just 40 days left, so the clock is ticking. Will they be able to pull it off in time? We shall see. Bob Cusack, thanks so much, sir. Good to see you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.